I'd now like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Charika Marasinghe, just to give a brief introduction about her. So Dr. Charika holds a Bachelor of Laws Honours degree from the University of Colombo, Sri Lanka, a Master of Letters and Doctors of Philosophy degrees from the International Law from the University of Oxford, United Kingdom, specialising in international human rights and child rights laws. In a career spanning nearly 30 years, she served as a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Law of the University of Colombo for 7 years, as Deputy Chairperson, and as a member of the National Child Protection Authority, and as a trainer and a resource person in the field of human rights, child rights and women's rights at diverse conferences, institutions, both local and international. Dr. Marasinghe has been a volunteer for the Sarvodaya movement, the largest NGO in Sri Lanka, for more than 3 decades, co-founding the Sarvodaya Legal Services Movement in 1985 and the Sarvodaya Mahasevana in 1999, the first home in Sri Lanka for teenage mothers who have been victims of rape. As a trustee of the Vishva Niketan International Peace and Meditation Centre in Sri Lanka, the spiritual arm of Sarvodaya, she co-founded the Psycho-Spiritual Healing Program for Sri Lankan prison inmates in 1999. She is responsible for the overall management of the Vishva Niketan and for developing and implementing programs, workshops and dialogues on inner peace and outer peace. She was the co-recipient of the Women and Engaged Buddhism Award in 2008 of the Buddhist Council of Midwest USA for conceiving a psycho-spiritual healing program for tsunami survivors, and the recipient of an Outstanding Women in Buddhism Award in 2009 from Thailand for exceptional development of wisdom and compassion in the protection of child rights. She was also the volunteer national coordinator for the Metta Convention 2014 in Sri Lanka. Please welcome Dr. Charika Marasinghe.
Venerable Sir, Venerable Bhikkhunis, our wise elders from this sacred spiritual heart of Australia, distinguished speakers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters. It's quite a challenge to follow Uncle Max. The very first thought that came to my mind as we were traveling yesterday from, I can't remember from which destination to, we've been sort of doing a lot of traveling within this sacred land. And as I was talking to Susan and trying to understand more about the wisdom of the people of this land, Susan shared this beautiful remark. She said, not many Australians understand that the sense of humor they possess, come from the Aboriginal tradition. So I think Uncle Mac's presentation substantiate what you said, Susan. So we are here today for the past couple of days to connect with each other. I'm sure from the time we board on the plane in Sydney, we have been trying to make eye contacts. We have been trying to smile at people and make connection even though people are not known to us. And we have seen people helping each other when someone is trying to take a photograph of a loved one, coming to us and ask, may I take a picture of both of you? Without even a request. Naturally, I think we have been sort of connecting with each other during the past maybe 48 hours or so. But as we know, this is kind of like we have been in this particular sacred spiritual heart of Australia. We are to a certain extent sort of cut off from the rest of the world, in the sense, rest of Australia, except through the digital media. I now realize why Bante and the organizing team chose this venue as the venue of the third Metta convention on connecting of hearts, because you have nothing else to do but connect with each other, because there's nothing to connect with the outside world. So I think, but when we board on the plane, I think that's when the true connection should commence, because we are totally disconnected from our own selves, totally we are unplugged from our hearts and minds to an extent that this disconnection has, to a certain extent, anesthetized our senses and put us into some deep slumber. So I think, these kinds of gatherings are kind of wake-up calls for us, instead of waiting till a disaster struck our lives. So we are so disconnected, and it's so unique that something magical happened. Uncle Max has been talking about the digital divide. The new generation totally engrossed with their technical gadgets and stuff, but disconnected from humans. But it so happened that we had to rely on Uncle Max to bring a digital gadget from Sydney to Uluru to show this, beautiful gathering to people across the world, So how people connect with each other in a magical way it really awakens our hearts and minds. And what I'm going to share with you today is we did some choreography yesterday, role-played Metta, we role-played Dana, we role-played sharing, we role-played virtues of, that we really need to bring our hearts and minds close to. What I'm going to share with you today is how hundreds and thousands of individuals together tried to translate loving kindness into compassionate action. How affluent youth from town areas spent hours, days, weeks, sometimes months with rural villagers, shared their suffering, shared their joy, because we have come to a stage, not only we embrace suffering, we don't see, we are not blind, yet we don't see the suffering or the joy of another person. We are not deaf, yet we don't hear the pleasant, kind words of another person or the agony of another person. We are not dumb, yet we don't speak on behalf of others. So therefore, we really need to, every moment, every minute, every second, we really need to discover, unearth our own ability to share happiness and joy with others, our ability to embrace someone else's joy and happiness, our ability to translate that loving kindness into some sort of an action. 58 years ago, a man named Ahangamagetuda Aryaratna started on a collective journey. It's very easy for us to cultivate metta in a gathering like this. It's very easy for us to cultivate metta in a very serene and tranquil meditation center. It is very easy for us to practice metta in a beautiful shrine room. But the challenge is, as a Buddhist who is also a human rights, who happens to be a human rights lawyer, when you talk about human rights, people think of agitation, people think of protest, people think of fighting, shouting and fighting slogans. But as a human rights lawyer, I really don't know whether it was my fortune or good fortune or bad fortune that I had to travel. I'm totally physically exhausted because I had to travel 8,000 kilometers from January onwards until I left Sri Lanka to the remotest villages in Sri Lanka in 5 provinces. And when you go there, when you see people, can you embrace that suffering in your heart? Can you embrace that suffering in your own mind? And what can you offer? You're just going with empty hands. There's nobody, not with a big, bunch of goodies. How to connect with these people, young and old? I think that's what we really need to learn. This person named Ahangamagetuda Aryaratna founded this beautiful, unique movement called Sarvodaya. Sarva is all, Udaya is awakening, awakening of all. Sarvodaya is older than me. But I grew up with Sarvodaya for almost 5 decades. We didn't have holidays as children. My father who happens to be Ahangamagetuda Aryaratna. He himself was a teacher at that time when he founded the movement 58 years ago. He'll come home around 2 o'clock on every Friday and tell, please take some mats and pillows. We are going to drive to a remote village in the North Central province or in the Southern province. So as a child, every Friday, we used to go, and Bante, I have slept in temple Banamaduwa, what you call temple community halls as a child, in I don't know how many, but we used to travel, and my parents really wanted us to see the suffering at first hand. My parents say that we were taken to the villages from the time we were in our mother's womb. Now there's quite a lot of literature to say that the fetus can hear, the fetus's mind works. So as a child, as a fetus, I was exposed to the suffering of people. From the time that I'm known as a preschool child, I've been traveling to almost 15 years. I traveled at a stretch with my parents every weekend. I was compelled to stop traveling to the villages when I had to sit for the first government public exam. When we see, those who are here today from the Buddhist tradition, we talk about 4 noble truths. Suffering, there is a cause to suffering, and there is hope, and there is way out of suffering. So when we visited these remote villages, we experienced suffering at first hand. In 1958, students of Nalanda Vidyalaya, here we have one Bante here who was a past pupil of Nalanda Vidyalaya, a college in Colombo. Hundreds, not only from Nalanda Vidyalaya but college, but lot of school children were taken to this remote village in Kanatuluwa. And these youth never experienced, they were very they belonged to a very privileged class, and they had basically everything in life. And for the first time they saw this suffering. First time they saw that there are people, fellow Sri Lankans who are unable to satisfy their basic human needs. And they are also entrapped in this sort of very negative mindset of feeling hopeless, helpless, and powerless. So Sarvodaya is basically not a welfare organization. What Sarvodaya has done is to help each of these villagers to discover their own potential to help themselves. So Sarvodaya's journey in a village begins with a Shramadana camp. Shrama is labor, Dana is sharing. We normally understand Dana is by offering food to our venerable monks and nuns. Here we call Dana, Shramadana is manual labor. And those who come, yesterday we had some small medical emergency, and one sister provided medical dana, Vaidya dana, we call it Vaidya dana. And then there may be other people like engineers who would be happy to help the villagers with in constructing a preschool for the village. So this person brings in Shilpadana, the technological sort of sharing one's expertise in the technical field. And also there may be people with lot of good heart, and also lot of money. So they share with them, they bring into these camps dana, monetary assistance. I can still remember there was as a child, one thing that really attracted me as a little kid, because I couldn't understand the bigger picture, I was too small. There was this businessman who had a toffee confectionery factory. So he would come to the camps with a lot of goodies to be shared among people and children. So you bringing different talents. Even at the Metta Convention 2014, we tried to understand who brought dana, monetary sharing of monetary resources, who did shramadana, physical labor, to make the 2014 Metta Convention a reality, who brought dharmadana, our venerable monks and nuns, who brought shilpadana. We gave a live webcast even of that event. Even today we are giving a live webcast. So it's really trying to mobilize all the resources that we have for a common cause. Something magical takes place in a Shramadana camp. I wish we had some time to do a Shramadana with the native, elders, brothers and sisters of this sacred land. In a Shramadana camp, you wake up in the morning, you basically live in that village as a family during the camp period. You don't call anyone by their name. You call them brother, sister, depending on the person's age. You call them brother, sister, father, mother, uncle, aunt, son, daughter. This particular village that the students of Nalanda and other colleges visited was a socially outcast village. These people had no choice because they were considered as a socially outcast community, and they didn't have, even the women didn't have the honor of, even wearing any clothes to cover their upper part of the body. It was basically, they were prohibited from socially prohibited from covering their upper parts of the body. So they were outcasted, they were not considered as human beings by the rest of the upper socially privileged communities. So for these villagers, affluent youth and teachers coming from the capital of Sri Lanka to this socially outcast village was revolutionary for both the villagers as well as the students. My theme for my talk is awakening with the community. We cannot awaken unless we connect with our own selves, unless we connect with others. So through Shramadana, these youth were trying to connect with the villagers in a socially outcast, a remote village where ordinary Sri Lankans did not honor them or give the kind of dignity that they deserved. And in a Shramadana camp, they have what you call family gatherings. Morning family gathering at 5:30 a.m., where everybody sits in a circle, and you get not only Buddhists participating in the Shramadana, there are Tamils, Muslims, Christians taking part in Shramadana camps. So we give an opportunity for non-Buddhists to first observe their religions in a family gathering. Then finally, the majority Buddhists would spend a few 2-3 minutes observing their religious practices. Then everybody together do metta meditation for a few minutes, and then only they start their manual labor Shramadana, going to the field. It could be cutting a road to the village, it could be digging a well for the villagers, it could be constructing a preschool for the village. When I say village, working with villagers, young and old, sick and the wounded, healthy, and disabled, physically able people as well as, disabled people. So you see even pregnant mothers, they all take part in this Shramadana camp. And what do you practice? Dana, sharing, Priya Vachana, pleasant language, because you call everybody brother, sister, mother. Arthacharya, you are engaged in some constructive action. You share some precious, time with each other, engaged in constructive activity. Samanatmata, equality. Nobody takes any kind of privileged position except monks. Everybody sits on the ground when we meet. Everybody eats in the same community kitchen. And something magical took place in Kanatolua. The so-called affluent youth who came from the capital city became so humble and down to earth. They forgot that they belonged to a social strata so privileged, and that they belonged to a prestigious Colombo capital school. They forgot all the man-made barriers that divide us, race, caste, religion, and other divisions. They realized, they connected through these activities, they realized that people of Kanatolua are brothers and sisters who deserve the same dignity and honor that we deserve as human beings. On the other hand, the villagers of Kanatolua who were ostracized, stigmatized, discriminated against, suddenly felt honored by the so-called affluent people. I mean, in an ordinary social, at that time, according to the social kind of system that prevailed in the country, nobody would sit next to a outcast, person. Nobody would, allow a person from an outcast, socially outcast village to come through your front door, as if it's a sort of a kind of a curse. So the villagers, something magical took place in the hearts and minds of the Kanatolua villagers. They realized that they were working hand in hand with the people who came from the town areas, and they realize their own potential. They realize Swashakti. Swashakti is one's own power. Swashakti is self-empowerment. They realize by working together as a community, they realize the power of Janashakti, people's power, not just Swashakti. When you connect with others, you make that connection and it becomes a Janashakti, a kind of collective energy. The people who thought, even today I witness in our war-affected areas, more or less a similar situation, unfortunately. People are the poverty has made them completely numbed to their own potential. So they simply think that I have no power, I have no capacity, I just survive on a daily basis. There's no purpose in life. They just survive on a daily basis. So when this Ramadana took place in the Kanatolu village, the villagers, something special happened in their hearts and minds. They realized that they have the potential, they have the power. All they need is some sort of direction and guidance. So they rallied around the people who came from the town areas, and the mindsets that really they were inside this cocoon and didn't see what was happening, but suddenly something penetrated into their hearts and minds, gave them hope, gave them some sort of feeling of empowerment. And it was not through lectures, it was not through workshops, it was merely sharing everything from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock in the evening. You share your food, you share your prayers, you share your precious energy of your hand, you share if you are a doctor, side by side the work camp, the doctors will examine the children and see whether there are any severely malnourished children like what you just saw. So this plethora of activities take place during a Shramadana camp. See the speaker on the right side, sorry. So finally, you might wonder whether Sarvodaya Shramadana, the work camp, is the only activity that we do in a village. No, that's just the beginning of creating the psychological infrastructure conducive to physical development. So after the Shramadana camp, now you have mobilized everybody, but don't forget there were many obstacles. There were people, minority groups in the village, sometimes alcoholics obstructing, sometimes when just even one perch is not given to expand the village road. And even those obstacles were overcome through metta when the drunken man is in his normal senses. The volunteers and the other villagers will go and talk to him and praise him about something good in him and give him some recognition. And someone would go and talk to a wealthy, greedy person who is not giving one perch to expand the road. And so what do you practice in the process? There's so much joy we get out of being doing some sort of service to these people. So we call it mudita, altruistic joy, by helping somebody, seeing somebody's life being uplifted. And then you encounter all these obstacles, and then still you maintain your metta, compassionate attitudes, and try to overcome those obstacles through metta. And what do you practice? What do we practice in such situations? And there were a lot of, some pictures are not so clear, but the world's first Prime Minister was watching. She came to the first Ramadana camp. She was not the Prime Minister at that time, but her husband was the Prime Minister. He was invited, but he sent his message through the wife, who became Sri Lanka's Prime Minister, and later, she is the world's first Prime Minister. So when Prime Minister's wife attends a remote village work camp, what do you get? You get a lot of publicity. Then what happens? It really, now everybody is praising, and everybody is talking about this revolutionary kind of lifestyle taking place, and then it might again affect you negatively. So what happens? We practice upekha, because there may be, some people may praise our work, some people may insult us, cause us so much, problems, but we try to maintain equanimity. So these 4 noble abodes are put into practice right in the middle of a impoverished village. And we normally invite the villagers to identify some potential youth leaders to go for a community leadership training. So from psychological infrastructure building, you go to the next stage, social infrastructure building. So you form preschool children's group. You ask the preschool child to bring 1 box of matches full of rice. And you get the preschool teacher to cook that, turn that into a porridge. So imagine, say 30 children bringing 30 boxes of matches full of rice. What do they learn? They learn sharing. They learn that equality. Maybe one child belongs to an affluent family in the village. So these values are nurtured in groups. children's groups, mothers group, farmers group, and elders groups. So group formation takes place at that level. And then comes the village society, because you have to get some sort of recognition from the government under the laws of the country. So you register your little village society as a society under the law, so that you have some sort of a legal basis. And then once the psychological infrastructure and social infrastructure building process is completed, then they are prepared to handle economic activities. It is only then economic activities, economic empowerment programs are implemented. Then finally, if villagers are to sustain this self-reliance, they have to engage with the public service delivery mechanism. To that extent, they really need to be politically empowered, not to contest at elections, but to receive what they deserve from the rulers. So then we have the political empowerment programs. So all social empowerment, economic empowerment, political empowerment, all these programs are strongly grounded on spiritual and moral empowerment programs. No heart surgeon, neither a neurosurgeon, nor a heart surgeon, or the best network engineer on the planet can reconnect our broken hearts and minds, reconnect the circuits of our broken hearts and minds, only we connect with ourselves and at the same time connect with others, we can awaken to the reality of life and come back to life and lead a meaningful and a peaceful, contented life. May you be blessed with physical and mental energy to serve humanity. Not only humanity will we learn, we have Mother Earth, Father Sky, Grandfather Sun, and Grandmother Moon. So yesterday, Uncle Max, we tried to bring in, we were not aware of the sky. We tried to create a pond yesterday in our circle. So thank you so much for giving this opportunity. I'm really honored to be here, not as an organizer of the Metta convention, but as a speaker. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. And also I would love to thank, at this moment, I know my brothers and sisters of Sarvodaya are watching from Sri Lanka. So thank you so much for coming up with these beautiful video clips. A 26-year-old young boy for the first time developed this three video clips at our Peace Center. So I would like to thank everybody. Thank you.
When I was studying in Sri Lanka, that's where I met him. And I saw how he applied the principles of Metta, of loving kindness and compassion, going beyond boundaries to the most disadvantaged people. Today, after 58 years, Dr. Ari is 85 years old. He called me yesterday to send his good wishes on my birthday. Yeah. Because he has inspired me. Before we started the Metta around the world, we went to Sri Lanka because I know amongst the Buddhist community, the Sri Lankans are best known for, they have heard of at least this term Metta, loving kindness. So I thought that would be a good place to have a chapter as well as to have a convention. And after the first convention in Singapore, I'd like to introduce you the girls from Singapore. The three girls, I know there are four, but one is not here. Please come up quick. These are the three girls who took upon themselves, there's one more, who took upon themselves to organize the first Metta convention in Singapore. Now, they are paving the way for a second generation. Where are they? Come up quick. Yeah. We had the honor of getting Dr. A.T. Araratna to present a keynote address at the Metta Convention in Singapore. And this is the result. Then the Minister of Law, Foreign Minister Singapore, Mr. Shanmugam, kindly consented to officiate at the Metta Convention in Singapore. Yeah. Now all these things, and Dr. Charika was there. At the end of the convention, we were in the car. Dr. Charika was seated behind. I asked her, Dr. Charika, can you please help too? Actually, his father, Dr. Ari, told me, ask Charika to do something. Dr. Ari, this is no secret. And he says, please ask Charika to do. So that's why I turn around and says, Dr. Charika, can you help? And you know, it has taken her. You say only, just now she was introduced as the national coordinator, but she did everything from A to Z for the Metta Convention. She actually brought the Metta Convention to an international level. She brought the speakers from India and a great woman, three great mothers of India, and Dr. Kiran Bedi. Dr. Kiran Bedi, who was the first woman who grew up to be first woman police officer. Yeah? And you know what? When she was in charge of one of the largest prison in India, she thought, how can she rehabilitate these people? And you know what she did? She invited a meditation master, Dr. Sri Goenka, who was one of my first teachers in India. And he conducted a 10-day retreat in the prison. Yeah. Alison, Max, and there are many prisoners I know. Yeah. If you give us the opportunity, we'll send people to teach them metta, loving kindness. And that is what? After that, you know, the prisoners, you can watch this on the YouTube, under these things, yeah? They come up, they cry, and they're so happy, yeah? There's one, I think it was one Australian prisoner, yeah, and he says, I'm so fortunate to be in a prison and to have opportunity to meditate, yeah? Well, if you want to go to prison, you don't have to go, you help us, yeah? Okay, but there are many other Buddhist groups now, right, doing what you call, going to chaplains, Buddhist chaplains and at hospitals, yeah? So, not hospital, jail, yeah? So, Sarvodaya is continuing to do that at Vishwa Nikatan, yeah? What more can I say? A long more. Many more things, yeah? The husband, Dr. Upali Marasinghe, did a workshop for us in Malaysia. The workshop is called, the husband is a gynecologist. He's now associate professor in one of the medical college in Malacca, in Malaysia. And actually I meant to bring him here, but unfortunately he has exams there, so he could not come. He has conducted a workshop for us. It's called Metta in the Womb. Metta in the womb. Because what happens is this, when a mother bears the child, when the child is just 5 months old, first thing, the auditory organs fully developed, can hear everything what the mother and father says. Yeah? And then it has to start from that time, from the mother's womb, and that's where she's the product of that. Yeah? And you know, her husband has done this metta in the womb for more than 2,000 couples. 20,000 couples. They brought the couples together in the workshop. Both husband and wife must come together. And no drinking, no smoking, no quarreling during that 9 months period. That is the educational thing. Yeah? I wish to bring the husband here, if you would like. And to this community. Because I see so many young ones, many of them mentally handicapped. All because of what? Because the parents, they drink, they smoke at the time of pregnancy. Yeah? But this is where much service can be done, need to be done. So this is where, Dr. Ari, thank you for Charika and the Sarvodaya movement. Yeah? And I'll speak a little bit more of this when my turn comes. Now it's not my turn. Thank you all.